Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Hi, I'm ASTRID and I'm an alcoholic. Thank you, Dawn, so much for everything you've done. Really, I so appreciate it, and I just can't even imagine the amount of work that it must have taken to put this on, and so many people, and so much planning. And I, too, are very involved in AA, and I know what it's like to just get a meeting once a week going with a coffee pot and a cake commitment. So this is a really, really big deal, and I'm honored to be here. You know, I speak around at other places, but this one in my home in San Fernando, like, this is the biggest deal for me ever, ever, ever across the board, because this is where it all happened. This is where I got sober, and my whole history is here, and a tremendous amount of people that I know are here. So just to be here is very near and dear to my heart. I don't take it for granted at all. It's an unbelievable honor to stand before you, and I really hope that I can transmit something that can help somebody in this room tonight. I am a real alcoholic, and I suffer from the disease of alcoholism, and the American Medical Association tells us that 6% of the population have this disease, this illness. And what I needed to do was I really needed to see what is wrong with me. How did I get this? How do I treat this? How does the thing manifest? How does it manifest drunk? How does it manifest sober? And I had to pick a lot of things apart, you know, and the American Medical Association still hasn't found the gene for alcoholism. So as far as I know, medically, nobody's born with the phenomenon of craving, with alcoholism. And I speak from my own experience and not from anybody else's, and people can argue all day long, is it the chicken or the egg? Let's get into the debating society. But I look at my own life, and I look at my own biography, and I look at my own past, and I can see that I came from a tremendous amount of chaos. There was arguing, there was fighting. I believe that there was a lot of over-disciplining, and I wasn't heard, and I wasn't able to process my feelings, and I got really angry and really frustrated at a very early age. Now, what does that have to do with alcoholism? What does that have to do with a drink? Well, what I've learned over time is that you can take 3 children that are in the exact same household, and the parents are fighting, and there's chaos, and, you know, and these children need to somehow figure out how to process their pain or how to stuff it. And 3 children in the same household, and one will, you know, grow into a 400-pound quiet overeater. The next child will be a massive overachiever, trying to get everything done, straight A's, got to get to school on time, maybe to the bordering or right into obsessive-compulsive disorder, washing hands, you know, over and over and over, trying to overmanage and control. And then there's us, the real alcoholic. And what I do is I'm loud, I'm restless, I'm irritable, I'm discontent, I'm going to get in your face, I'm going to buck up against my parents, I'm going to bring it on, I'm going to egg you on, I'm going to climb out of windows, you say no, and I'm going to do it twice as much. I'm the class clown, I'm going to get in trouble in school, you know, I'm the one that my parents are spanking twice as much. I'm difficult, I'm the problem child, you know. My mother, she's German, and she's a war survivor, and I'm, you know, basically described as, I don't know what's wrong with this one, came out no good. This one is not so good, this one's pretty good, but this one's no good. Always, from when she's born, no good. And that's basically, when I hear that enough, I'm going to grow into those shoes, and I'm going to wear that garment, and I'm going to wear it well. I'm going to show you how no good I am. So as time goes on, I continue to break the rules, I continue to get in trouble, I continue to stuff my feelings, and I remember just being so angry as a child, so angry, so angry. I wanted to kick the crap out of somebody. I would break things. I would smash things. I would bang on things. I would throw enormous fits. I would lay on the floor and I would scream and I would yell. There was something really wrong with this child way before a drink. There was something really clearly wrong with this kid. So as time goes on, guess what happens? Somewhere around 11 or 12 or 13, I go to a party, somebody pops open a Budweiser and hands it to me, and alcohol does for me what I can't do for myself. And for the first time in my life, I feel a little freedom. I feel a little okay. I kind of like everybody. Hey, what sign are you? This is pretty good. I think I like you. Oh my God, this is so fun. And I begin to drop my guard, and my ego and my pain and my frustration goes away, and I'm enjoying myself for the first time in my life. And there's such a huge sense of relief in that drink. I can talk to people. I can look people in the eye. I can sit up all night long and have conversations, and I couldn't even get along with anybody just a minute ago. And so then what happened for me is I liked it. So I kept doing it. And I did it because I enjoyed it, because I liked the effects of alcohol. But I didn't know that at some point what was going to happen was I was going to cross over an invisible line. Nobody knows when they cross over the invisible line because it's called the invisible line. But somewhere, someday down the road, I cross over an invisible line and I lose the freedom of choice, and I'm the last one to know it. I don't know what's happening. Nobody's ever described alcoholism to me. I don't know that it's a disease. I don't know that I'm about to cross over an invisible line and alcohol is going to be my master for the rest of my life. But I remember wanting to stay up later, you know, and it's like, it's 20 minutes to 2, you know, and it's like, beer 30, who's going to go to 7-Eleven? Hurry, 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 pass the hat, let's go. And people are like, whoa, slow down, Turbo, it's okay, you know. And I can see that at the end of the weekend, everybody's hungover on Sunday, and I'm like, come on, one more run. And people in high school are saying, well, I got to go to school Monday morning. And I can see there's something wrong, but I don't know what's wrong. I don't know what's wrong with me. And how do I get so drunk that I can't remember? What happens? Why do I say and do all those pitiful and incomprehensible things? And then as I lose my virginity later on in the process, I start having sex with people I don't even know. And I wake up in the morning and I have real moral fiber. I'm not a sociopath. I'm horrified. I'm absolutely horrified at what I've done. What happened? Where's my clothes? Where's my ring? Where's my freaking underwear? How did that dent in my car happen? What happened? And over and over and over for weeks and months and years of my life, I kind of live in a coma, just bumbling around all over the place. So not only do I have the pain and the pathology of the original wound of my childhood, but now, starting at 12 and 13 and 14 and 15, I pile up all these other pains that I'm going to have to inventory someday. And I make a complete mess of my life. You know, and I go into high school and people are like applying to colleges and they want to go on in life, and I'm on the back of a Harley with middle fingers waving everywhere and screaming at my mother, you know, and just getting in arguments and, you know, getting into trouble and in bar rooms with jukeboxes, throwing darts and chugging pitchers, you know, and shooters and shots and crazy and out of my mind, telling dirty jokes, thinking I'm so damn clever. And really I'm vibrating at a very low frequency, and I'm deeply into the disease, but I still don't know it. I don't know it. I do know that my self-esteem is shot. I do know that my picker's broken, you know. I do know that I can't get along with people, that I can't maintain relationships. I do know that I mean well, but I can't do well. I do know that I often start things, but I don't complete them. But I still haven't connected all the dots. I'm really not sure, you know. And then people go off and they go to college, and then they graduate and they get bachelors and masters and PhDs, and they get married, they have white picket fences, they have husbands, they stay with them, they don't cheat, they don't overspend on their bank accounts, and they have these normal lives. And I can see as time goes on, I'm a loser. That's what my mind keeps telling me. I'm a loser, I'm a loser. It's not telling me you are captured by the disease of alcoholism, you're deeply in your disease. If you could get sober and you could have a spiritual way of life and apply the steps as a way of life, you could have a spiritual transformation, and you could be that and even more. It doesn't say that. It just says that I'm a loser. So somewhere down the line, what happens is it gets so bad that I start to go into rehab after rehab after rehab after rehab. You know, and the first time I got sober, I didn't have a psychic change. Nothing really happened for me. I did AA as a homework assignment. You know, I just like went out and got a sponsor, and I did a 4th step and a 5th step. I did 90 meetings in 90 days, and then I stayed so dry I could spontaneously combust. And in that time, I had a child in early sobriety. I got pregnant. I had a child. I put myself through college. I got a teaching credential. I moved from Massachusetts to Granada Hills. You know, my baby was 2 years old, and, you know, I put her in a Waldorf school, and I did the Waldorf teacher training, and I was like, I didn't really need to go to AA. I'd pop in and out of the Valley Club, and I'd hear all those people over there, you know, up one side and down the other, and this place is interesting, but it's not for me, you know. And I didn't pull out the book, and I didn't get a sponsor, and I just sort of did a drive-by. And, you know, it says that the disease waits at every man or woman's elbow to resume its destruction, and it waits patiently for years. For years, it really does wait. And what I know now is that I had never treated my insides, that I was restless, I was irritable, and I was discontent. You know, I'd wake up in the morning in constant financial fear, and I'd tell myself I'm not doing it right. I'd tell myself my parenting was poor. You know, sometimes I'd just throw a fit, and I'd scream, and I'd yell in the house. I'd have a boyfriend here and another one there. I'd get in arguments. We're breaking up. I think we need a restraining order. I don't like this black eye. I need an ice pack. You know, and this is sober. So what's going to happen is at some point, guess what? Alcohol and me are going to have a little date, and my mind's going to tell me that maybe a drink would be a good idea. Maybe, just maybe. Maybe a drink would fix all of this. See, my mind told me that a drink might. It really might. I know today there are a million drinks couldn't have fixed that problem. There's no amount of liquor in the world that could have fixed my life. But I didn't know that, because alcoholism is cunning and baffling and powerful, and it speaks to me with great authority, and the main part of the illness centers in my mind rather than my body. And it's a self-talking disease. It's a disease of deception. It's a disease of lies. It hijacks me. It hijacks my plane all the way to Cuba, and I'm the last one to know. It uses my thoughts. It uses my words. It uses my story. It uses my past. It uses the fear of the future. It'll attach itself to anything and start playing ASTRID's greatest hits. Here comes doomsday. We got to get drunk. We got to do something. And so I pick up a drink, forgetting all about that I'm going to trigger the phenomena of craving. So here I am now, you know, 10 years dry. I've got a child in my life. I have a 9-year-old, you know, at home. I own a home. I have a private practice. I have a 2-car garage, 4-bedroom, 3-bath, you know, I've got a mortgage, I got a lot of stuff going on, and I'm crazy. Now I start drinking. Now I start pouring liquor on this, and within 6 months, like really, like the book says, you can almost go beyond recognition. And I started coupling it with drugs, and this is not to ever water down the message of Alcoholics Anonymous, but I can tell you that the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, they've changed so much. The landscape is so different today than it was in the beginning, that if I don't at least touch on the subject of addiction, because it's not in the liquid, it's in me. It's any kind of addiction. I can switch addictions in a minute. I can start eating cake and turn into a 500-pound person. I can all of a sudden want $300 worth of scratch cards at a time, you know. I can start gambling. I can, you know, I don't know. People get into porn. They get into yard sales. They get into Matchbox cars. They get into all kinds of stuff, you know. So I start drinking, and I start losing my mind. And I start really, really going crazy. And I start bringing kooky people into the house. And I just start really tearing my life all the way down to a nothing. Very quickly, I start going through all the savings that I had saved, you know, and I am hungover every morning, and my mind tells me every single morning, God, you should kill yourself. Oh, in case you guys haven't noticed, alcohol is a depressant. So it wasn't that I was clinically depressed, it was that the liquor told me to kill myself every day. So every morning I'd wake up and I'd go, God, you should kill yourself, you should kill yourself, you should really kill yourself. My poor kid, I would drag her through that too. I'd go, Mommy just wants to die, I'm so sorry, I'm so sick. Mommy just wants to kill herself. I mean, that poor kid, the poor kid that I dragged through this stuff. But I didn't know any better. I'm doing the best I can with what I've got. I'm diseased. I'm untreated. I'm dying, and I'm the last one to know it. So I wake up every morning with a hangover, and I want to kill myself, and I swear to God I'm never going to drink again, and somewhere around 3 or 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I change my mind. Every single day. Day in, day out. I keep changing my mind and changing my mind and changing my mind. I'm not changing my mind. I'm not thinking. I'm being thunk by the disease. I'm being thunk. I'm being taken over. It's something bigger than me. It's an ism, not a wasm. It's a living entity. It lives inside of me. It needs a host. It sucks the life out of me, but it's not me. It's not me. I'm a direct reflection and a manifestation of a beautiful creator that made all of this here, but I don't know how to align my will and my thought life with this creator. I'm so stuck in my head. I'm so stuck in the anger. I'm so stuck in the hostility that I don't know how to find a God. I don't know about a life of prayer. All I think is like prayer, that's for religious people, and they're seriously mentally ill. Y'all think I'm crazy. You should go to a church someday. Those guys are really pathological. You know, and that's what my mind says to me. So I never had a psychic change. I don't know how to treat my disease. And if you be a real alcoholic, it's going to get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. So these people come to my house and they do this weird intervention that didn't work on me. And they're like, we really love your daughter, and she seems really weepy, and she seems really upset, and you seem really skinny and sick, and I think you need some help, and we're going to take your daughter. And I'm like, okay. So I give away my 10-year-old daughter. Like, I just pack up all her stuff, you know, take her posters off the wall, all her Spice Girls CDs, you know, all of her, like, cool everything, her whole world. We just pack it in boxes, and I just send her to these Christian people's house, and now the disease is really on because I don't even need to get up anymore. I don't even need to do anything. All my responsibilities are gone. I don't even need to make a frickin' toaster waffle. I don't need to do anything. I can just roll up shop and just get drunk around the clock, morning, noon, and night, which is exactly what I did. And eventually I lost my home and I just moved out into the street. And I lived in the street for a good part of 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003. And I lived a life of prostitution in and out of Twin Towers 23 times, 23 prostitution charges, 18 drug and alcohol related charges. I have been in Chatsworth Court more times than I ever want to think of. I have been in Van Nuys jail more times than I want to think of. I have been on all 7 floors in Twin Towers 23 frickin' times. I am the real deal. I earned my seat here, that's for sure. This isn't something I'd ever want to say anywhere else, but thank God there's a place I can come to and say, this is where liquor took me. It's not a joke. It really hijacked my whole life. And I dragged my child along with it. My poor kid. She has no dad. She's a child of a single mom who's telling her everything's going to be okay, everything's going to be okay, and then everything's not okay. And she's a witness to this horrible wake that we drag people through, you know, the warped lives of blameless children, it says in the book. Very, very tragic. And as time went on, I just really lost my mind. I really lost my mind to alcohol and to drugs in the street, and I became delusional, I became paranoid, I became schizoaffective, there was microchips in my eye, the CIA and the FBI are following me. I think that there's a microchip in my eye and my daughter has a TV somewhere with a clicker and she can turn it on and she can see what I can see, so now I have to tie a bandana around my eye, I have to cover it so she can't see where I am, and then sometimes I go to the 99-cent store over on Sepulveda and I buy $1 pair of tweezers, and then I go to somebody, one of the street people, and I say, can you do me a favor? There's this thing in my eye. Could you please get it out with these tweezers? And you know, it's funny, but it's not. It's so painful when you're in that psychosis because it really happened to me. Even if it didn't happen to me, it happened to me. It was my reality. It was unbelievably painful. I mean, I was living, you know, dead woman walking, halfway in hell, halfway in God knows what. You know, and I remember just like my instincts got really primal. It was sort of kill or be killed, you know. I didn't really look people in the eye anymore. You just sort of smell them. You sort of feel them. I sort of maneuver around people. Every time I saw a child, I felt so guilty and so sick. I thought, I don't have any right to even be on the same sidewalk with a woman that has a child. I felt so dirty. I'd never been a prostitute. I'd never even looked at porn. Now I'm living in the street turning tricks and drinking out of my mind and gone beyond recognition. And this cycle lasted for years and years and years. And then, you know, I met this guy in the street, this trick, and Mr. Captain Save-A-Ho, and he decided he was going to like rescue me with his little cape, you know, and what he really needed was an Al-Anon meeting, but whatever, you know, and he would come in and out of jail, and he'd put money on my books, and he would always talk to me about my daughter that he never met, and he'd say, don't you want to go back and see your daughter? Don't you want a good life? Don't you want to? And I remember just that despair of like, are you kidding? It is so over for me. All the bridges to safety have been burned. Are you joking? There is no way back to anything. But I did. After about 3 years, 2.5 years in the street, I started going into rehab. Rehab after rehab. People make a lot of money off of us in rehabs. I mean, it's really gotten over the top. No offense to any of y'all that are owning rehabs out there, but God, these $100,000 big books, you know, and all this hoopla out there, and I don't even know. I mean, it's just so unbelievable. So I'm in and out, and I'm getting county beds, you know, and I stay in for a second, spin dry, go back out into the street, and at this point, I'm just in so much pain. I suffer so deeply from shame, from guilt, from embarrassment. Like I said, my pathology isn't sociopathic. I'm not disassociated with what I did. I'm horrified. How could I ever look at anyone? How am I ever going to even inventory this? How am I ever? I'm a whore. I live in the street. Like, how am I ever going to feel okay about it? I gave my child away. What's going to happen? What? Just like go to a frickin' meeting, take some cotton out of my ears and shove it down my throat? Am I going to be okay? Are you kidding me? I need so much help, so much help. You know, and when I lived in the street, on top of all that, there's a tremendous amount of very, very traumatic experiences that can happen. People pull out knives, they pull out guns, you see overdoses. You know, a couple of the stories that I always tell, one of them was when I was living near Sepulveda. It was pouring rain one February, and I went into this burnt-out house, and the water's just pouring through the ceiling, and there are parts of the house that weren't burnt enough so you could sort of get dry, but that smell of that burning wood, just so nauseous and toxic. And I go way in the back, and there's this girl, this black girl, laying on a sleeping bag, and she's like pregnant, out to here, like 9 months pregnant, and she's all smoked out on drugs, and I can just see the look on her face like, girl, don't you say anything to me. And I just sat down and I just kept chugging vodka and getting high and losing my mind. And every once in a while she would take her hand and she would put my hand on her stomach, and I could feel this baby kicking and moving. But you know what? I couldn't stop. I couldn't get out of there. Even my instinct to be a parent, my instinct for nurture, alcohol trumped over it. I couldn't stop what I was doing. Alcohol was so much the master. I was such a meat puppet that I knew well, but I couldn't get out of there. I couldn't do it. It was so hopeless. I couldn't even dial 911. I don't know what to do. Let's just, you know, get wasted with this lady and her baby. I mean, it's crazy when I look back on it. You know, I remember one time, I mean, every day I would just think, I want to die. How come these prostitutes get all cut up and thrown in a dumpster and it never happens to me? I hear these stories. Well, how come they don't slit my throat? What's going on here? But anyway, one day I got a real one, right? So I get in this guy's car and he pulls a gun out and he sticks it right in my face and he goes, take your clothes up and you're going to suck my dick right now. And I go, wait a minute, hold on, Turbo. Not only am I not going to take my clothes off and I'm not going to do that, but I'm going to tell you something. And I meant it. I go, I want you to look me in the eye. And I'm going to count to 3. And when I say 3, I want you to blow my fucking brains out. And he said, girl, you're crazy. Get the hell out of my car. And I'm looking at him and I'm saying, I'm crazy. You're the one pulling a gun on somebody, you know. But it's interesting because I look back at that, and I look back at the depth of my pathology. I meant it. I'm not kidding. Like bring it on. We're not doing any Silence of the Lamb thing. You're not going to slowly snip my nipples off and shit. Like, let's just get this over with. I'm not going to lay in some hole in your frickin' and you're going to make a lampshade out of my stuff. Like, let's go now, you know? And that's how far down the scale that alcohol took me, all the way down, like my instinct, my security instinct, my instinct to be okay and to protect myself, out the window, gone. You know, and I look back at that and I can see that all the wiring was so disturbed, it was so messed up, it was so screwed up inside. Alcohol had scrambled my egg so severely. I already had a partial scrambled egg by the environment and the ecosystem that I came out of. And then drinking all those years and drugging all those years just made it so much worse. I wanted to be a good mom. I wanted to be a worker. I wanted to go to college. I wanted to graduate. I wanted to get an award. I wanted to have a husband. I wanted all those things, but I had no idea how to create that, how to hold on to that, how to cultivate that, how to even have any kind of experience with that. Everything I did just turned to, you know, crap. So as time went on, went in and out of jail and in and out of jail, and this guy kept saying, you need to go to rehab, you know, and so I started going to rehab after rehab after rehab after rehab after rehab. And you know, that's a very painful place because, like I said a minute ago, every time I got sober, the pain was so unbelievable. I mean, I would lay in bed and I would think of all that dirty stuff in the street, all that stolen property, all those sick men, all those motel rooms, all that vodka, all those days where I couldn't remember anything, all those kooky people that I saw. It's like a horror movie just running through your mind all the time. I'm shell-shocked. For real. Post-traumatic stress, absolutely, without a doubt. Post-traumatic, like I needed a team of people. I needed a spiritual solution. I needed a lot of help. Just laying in a bed in a rehab really was just a Band-Aid on the entire gaping wound that was oozing from my soul. I was so sick. And you know, I see people that come in and it's hard for them to make it because I think sometimes people don't understand the nature and the depth of the pain of these people, the suffering that we've been through. I tell you, if you're here tonight, I know how much pain you've been through because this is no joke. It destroyed our lives. It took away everything we ever wanted, and the shame and the incomprehensible demoralization and families and arguings, and even with years of sobriety. You know, you're written out of the will. You're not invited to Christmas anymore. You know, you've got these issues with your mom, your sister, you know, and then there's this whole idea of, oh yeah, well, you just get through your 5th step and then you get to your 8th and your 9th step and we're going to do the hokey pokey and turn yourself around. That's what it's all about. And it doesn't go that way. You know, I've inventoried and I've even inventoried and some of this stuff doesn't just go away. It doesn't. I really need a lot of help and I need a big God. So I'm in rehab and I'm out in the desert at ABC Club with Danny Leahy and Helen over there. God rest both of their souls. And somebody hands me these tapes by this guy named Bob Anderson, who started this meeting called Primetime over on Ventura Boulevard and Beverly Glen behind the Fat Burger. And there's a Saturday night meeting there, and there's a Monday night men's stag and a Monday night women's stag, both all at that same church. And I'm not saying that my home group's the be-all, end-all. You know, there's one ultimate authority, and it's a loving God. And the steps are the steps, and God is God. And it doesn't matter how you get it or where you get it. But I needed so much help, and I heard this particular format where they talk about alcoholism, ego, and self, and steps 1, 2, and 3. And they bring in the Harry Tiebout papers. Harry Tiebout was the one that got the Lasker Award for getting alcohol deemed as a disease with the American Medical Association. If any of your insurances have ever paid for you to get sober, Harry Tiebout had a big part in that. He also was a very good friend of Bill Wilson's, and he was on the American Medical Board of Alcohol, and he was also on the board of Alcoholics Anonymous in the 40s and 50s and 60s, and he was a psychiatrist that worked with alcoholics, drunk and sober. And what they talked about in my home group was they talked about these papers that Harry Tiebout wrote, the ego factors. And the ego factors are that sober, I'm impatient, I'm a queen and a baby, I'm defiant, I think I'm God. And so I have to look at this stuff, this queen and this baby. You see, I don't have the capacity to just be humble and be in the middle. See, when I don't get my way, the queen says, off with your head, and the baby says, I'm throwing a big old fit. And I swing back and forth from one to the other. I am so angry, I am so incensed. Don't you know who I think I am? I have no capacity to back down, to just allow, to accept. And my mind tells me all the time that y'all are after me, that you're out to get me, that this is wrong. I think that I should be treated a certain way, that I should be treated with some kind of privilege. Like, my ego's completely whacked out. And this is the characteristic of almost every alcoholic. This is just a characteristic. It's called an infantile ego. You see, everybody else, when we were growing up getting wasted, everybody else that went on to college and then got married and got jobs and all of that stuff, they learned to problem solve and work things out. Not me. I stayed like 12 or 15 years old, you know. Kill or be killed. You're going to get in my face. I'm going to take you out. I'll show you a knuckle sandwich, you know. That's the extent of my coping skills and my solution solving, you know. I mean, how am I going to get very far with that? And it doesn't look very pretty at like 40 years old in a rehab all washed out. You know, where am I going to go with this? So I needed to look inwardly. I needed to see that maybe, just maybe, my ego was infected with untreated alcoholism, and that I actually didn't even need a drink to get mad. I'm just mad. I'm just mad at everything. I don't even know why I'm mad. I'm mad because I hate myself. And I hate all you too. I hated everybody. And I couldn't remember ever not hating people. I just couldn't remember it. And the more I thought about it, I thought, God, I don't even know what love is anymore. I can't even feel a loving, good thought in my heart. I was so hardened by this disease. I could see that I need to run the show, that my ideas are good and yours aren't. Here's a counselor in a rehab trying to help me. She's got 23 years in the ding, 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 and whatever. She doesn't talk fast enough for me. She's not quite smart enough. Her use of the English language is a little bit skewed. She's stupid. She's so stupid. What a stupid B-I-T-C-H. That's what my mind says. Throw her away. She doesn't know anything. I don't know anything. But my mind's telling me I know something. My mind's telling me I'm smarter than this lady that's trying so hard to help me understand maybe the steps, maybe some self-discipline, maybe being kind, maybe backing down, maybe the restraint of pen and tongue, maybe a spiritual principle. Maybe she's trying to show me something new. I'm shut off to it.
To obtain additional copies, receive a free catalog of AA and Al-Anon talks, or to find out about our tape and CD of the Month Club, call Encore Audio Archives at 1-800-878-1308, or visit our website at www.12steptapes.com.
I'm godlike. I'm omnipotent. I know what's right and what's wrong, and it's about this big, and my mind can't expand. I don't have an open mind like it says in the 12 and 12 that I need to stop the debating society. It doesn't matter which came first, the chicken or the egg. All I really need is a truly open mind. You know, I look at this aspect of impatience and everything, gotta go, gotta go, gotta go. I don't even know where I'm gonna go next. You know, I'm in line, I'm waiting for something. This lady in Starbucks is an idiot. She gets all the way to the front, and then she goes, what's the difference between a venti and a grande? And I'm like, I'll show you the difference between a venti and a grande. And I think I've gotten sober, and so y'all should hurry up because it's my coffee time, you know? And I don't have any compassion. And I can't see that there's a whole lot of other people in this world that are allowed to be in line and ask a question. My mind doesn't even know how to properly compute this. And this is how far down the scale I went. My thought life is completely unmanageable. Completely unmanageable. Now, why is this so important? To me, when I look at the first half of step 1, we all know. That's the one thing we can all do perfectly. We're powerless over alcohol, don't ever have another drink. I have not had a drink in 10.5 years, haven't even had a shot of NyQuil. Maybe once I had like a bite of tiramisu and spit the thing out. I have not had any liquor. I haven't had a drink, but I've had a lot of things. A lot of them. I had thinks even this week, you know. So I look at this second half of step 1 dash, that my life's unmanageable. It's my thought life that's unmanageable. I have to see that I'm full flight from reality. I have to see that the calls are coming from inside the house. I have to see that I'm the self-manufacturer of my own misery. I have to see that I'm the breeder of confusion, not harmony. That it's me. It's not them that needs to change. They don't need to change. They don't need to do anything. My mom doesn't even have to ever invite me to Christmas or say I love you. She doesn't have to do anything. My daughter doesn't ever have to come back in my life. Nobody has to do anything. It's me that has to change. I have to have an understanding that my mind is warped, glass in hand, and it will never straighten out. It will never, ever, ever straighten out. So for me, the steps are not a race. They're a way of life. They're a way that I need to live. They're a design for living. They're a blueprint for living. You know, this idea that, hey, what step are you in? Oh, I'm in 4. Well, I'm in 8. Ha, ha, ha. It doesn't go like that. It's not a race. There's no finishing line. There isn't a cap and a gown, and now I'm done with my steps, and it's all over. It says that the steps are a group of principles, spiritual in their nature, which, if practiced as a way of life, can expel the obsession to drink and enable the sufferer to become happily and usefully whole. You know, and Bill Wilson talks about working with others, and he even tells me like how to present this to whomever when I'm 12-stepping. He says, continue to speak of alcoholism as an illness, as a fatal malady. Talk about the condition of the body and the mind, it says it here, which accompany it. Keep the man's attention focused mainly on my own personal experience. Explain that many are doomed who never realize their predicament. Doomed. Alcoholics Anonymous is a great idea. Who's going to do it? You know, and I have to ask myself that. Am I continuing to pray? Am I applying spiritual principles? Am I allowing the Creator into my heart today? Am I expanding my spiritual life? Because if I'm not, I'm rolling backwards, and maybe I'm not going to drink today, but I'll tell you, alcoholism is a subtle foe, and I got a daily reprieve, and if I don't, it's contingent on the maintenance of my spiritual condition, and if I don't plug myself into a power, I'm headed for a drink, but the disease won't tell me that. It won't say I'm headed for a drink. It'll say that person's wrong and you need to go over there and give them a piece of your mind because you're not a doormat. And it makes me sick when I feel that way. It doesn't make me feel good. I'm not vibrating at a high frequency. I'm in conflict. I'm arguing with people. You know, the other thing that Bill says on the next page, he says, never talk down to the alcoholic from any moral or spiritual hilltop. I'm here from my own experience. I don't know how to save anybody's life. I can't. You know, it says there's one that has all power. That one is God. May you find him now. It says there's one ultimate authority, and it is a loving God. It's not in the sponsor. It's not in the home group. It's not in cleaning the ashtray or rinsing out the coffee pot. All of those are great things. Get involved. Get involved. Be a part of AA. Get a part of a fellowship. Get a part of a home group. But I need to go inwardly and really look at what's wrong and learn how to seek a life of contemplation and prayer and meditation to improve my conscious contact with this power. So it says, simply lay out the kit of spiritual tools for his inspection. Show him how they worked for you. Offer him friendship and fellowship. Tell him that if he wants to get well, you will do anything to help him. If he's not interested in your solution, if he expects you to act only as a banker for his financial difficulties or a nurse for his sprees, you may have to drop him until he changes his mind. This he may do after he gets hurt some more. You see these people just like me go round and round and round and round and round. I had to be so finished, so completely done, and I mean done. I always say, if you don't want to be here, don't worry. You won't. You just won't. You know, honestly, I have got to find a power in my life because I lack the power to overcome these demons that live inside of my head. This alcoholism that runs my life. You know, I have to become comfortable seeking out people that intimidate me, people that have something that I want. People that don't just talk a talk. People that are living a spiritual way of life. People that have really forgiven. People that have loving, adoring, healthy relationships. People that their hearts are open, their minds are open. You can tell them a crazy concept and they're willing to listen and they don't have to interject 5 million opinions. I need to know what a winner is. I need to see people that spiritually intimidate me so that I can have a reference point of what I'm even looking for. Because I can't do this alone. And if church could do it alone, well, great, you know, then we'd all just go to church and be okay. So I have to understand how my disease operates, and I have to understand what the treatment is, what the application of the steps are, and what they're there for. They're in a logical order form, but a spiritual principle is a spiritual principle. It's been true for 1,000,000 years, and it'll be true for 1,000,000 years. And when it's applied on the inside, I'm going to view the world and feel differently about it than I did before. I'm going to have a different reaction or response than I did before. I'm not going to be on my muscle. I'm not going to want to stick an ice pick through your head. I'm not going to want to roll my window down and flip you off. I'm not going to want to get all argumentative and crazy. So I look at this step 2 and I see that I've got to come to believe that there's some kind of power. You know, this is a God program and a we program, but it is a spiritual plan of action. It really is a spiritual program. I got to know what self looks like. I'm so full of self, and self is so dirty and infected with untreated alcoholism. It says any life run on this self thing can hardly be a success. We must be rid of the self or it kills us. Selfishness and the self-centeredness we think is the root of our trouble, driven by 100 forms of fear and self-delusion. Fear that I'm not going to get mine, that I'm not going to be treated a certain way, that I'm not going to make it. Where am I going to make it to? Like there's some red carpet or paparazzi or something. Like I got to learn how to just be still and allow the creative intelligence to work through me. You know, we talk in the prayers, my Creator, I'm now willing that you should have all of me, you know, remove from me every single defective character. Or God, I offer myself, my whole self to you. Can you build with me? Could you do with me as thou wilt? Could you relieve me of the bondage of self so I can better serve you and Alcoholics Anonymous and be a better person in the world? We say these prayers. We say them. It says that protect me from evil. You know, please God, be with me. Don't allow me, you know, keep me away from temptation, which means it's in my mind. It's not necessarily temptation that I want to rob a bank. It's temptation, you know, to keep me away from temptation and deliver me from evil. It's all coming from inside. There's darkness inside of me, and I need a light. I need a light of God. I need an infinite light and an infinite intelligence that I can wire into. Everybody in this room is actually wired for enlightenment. It's an equal opportunity, but we have to have a life of prayer and contemplation and meditation. So I look at step 2 and step 3, and it says that I need to come to believe that a power can restore me. So I can't believe until I have a relationship with this power and I start interacting with this power. So I ask this power, the main part of the disease centers in my mind. Can you protect me from my mind? Can you help me get out of bed in the morning without a ratty head, without my mind counting the bank account or looking in the mirror and thinking I see a wrinkle or whatever, you know, or hating on somebody that did something in 1972 and the story isn't even accurate. I've woven it so many times. And I ask this God with intention. I ask this power with my heart. I say, power, can you be with me? How much time do I have? Me neither. It's 10 after 9. Okay, well, just wave for, I don't know, 10, 15 more minutes. Okay, so anyway, I don't know how much time. I thought we were starting at 7:30, and then we started at 8:30 or 8:45, whatever. Doesn't matter. So I asked this power, can you be with me? Can you help me? Can you protect me from my mind? And like Emmett Fox talks in the Sermon on the Mount, which is the book that Bill and Bob used before they compiled the big book. And Bill Wilson loved Emmett Fox, absolutely loved him. He, you know, I ask this power with intention. I say, power, you got to help me. You got to be with me. I ask with my heart. I'm so screwed up inside. Protect me. Give me an intuitive thought. Guide me. Let me be okay in the moment that I'm in. Help me get away from the thoughts that are bombarding my mind. And because there really is a God, I start to have an interaction and I start to have an experience with His power. And I get up and I'm okay. And for some reason, I'm not ashamed that I used to live in the street, or that I was a prostitute, or that my mother doesn't talk to me, or that the world doesn't understand me. I'm not ashamed that I missed half of my life and I think I should be somewhere else. I should have been successful or had some Oscar or I don't even know what. I'm not tripping on any of that. I'm okay. I look outside and I'm like, God, I live in Southern California and the weather's so unbelievable. You know, I love my life. And for no reason at all, love starts to wire up inside of me. You know, moral thinking, what it does is it re-educates the heart. And what happened to us is our hearts got so broken, so broken, that I have to be around people who have morally re-educated their heart. And in the beginning, they're like, you know, let it go, live and let live. But you know what? I have got to turn into that person. I've got to be that person that says, hey man, you know what? Let it go. Live and let live. Stay in your lane. This is not a joke, man. Stay over here and stop peeking over the fence. I used to hate that stuff. My ego would say, that's for wusses. That's for sissies. Are you kidding? This one, I gotta yell at somebody. I gotta tell him something. All of that has to be rewired. I've got to back down. I've got to at least contemplate being good. Even contemplating being good, even though I go yell at the person later, at least it was a start. It's progress, not perfection. At least I thought about it. At least I think maybe even about it afterwards, and I think, oh God, I don't want to be this anymore. I did an oopsie. I did a thing again. I said the wrong thing. I got really mad. You know, and as time goes on, it gets easier and easier and easier to practice the restraint of pen and tongue, to back down, to allow God to be the manager for my life. You know, it talks about allowing God to speak through you with intuitive guidance. You know, what used to be a hunch or a flimsy reed, you know, now turns into the working mind. And it's not the head mind, it's the heart mind. I'm trying to get away from here. This thing is infected with untreated alcoholism. It thinks it knows everything and it doesn't know anything. And this didn't know anything when it came here, and now it's learning so much more. And out of nowhere, I feel forgiveness, and I feel compassion, and I don't want war, and I don't want conflict, you know, I don't want to be right. And God starts to really do for me what I couldn't do for myself. I look at step 3, and it says that I make a decision to turn my will and my thought life over to the care of this power. And this decision is not just once, like a third step prayer in 1973, you know, with Huck in the Denny's parking lot. It's like, my mind's hijacking me all day long. I got to make a decision at every intersection. Here it comes again. Here it comes again. Whoa, turbo, slow down. You know, power, you got to be with me. You got to help me. And I make this decision to turn my will and my thought life over to the care of this power that I choose to call God many times throughout the day, many times, backing down and allowing this God to be the manager for my life. You know, when I finally got to that place where God was a working part of my life and my mind, it was then that I actually started inventory. I didn't do a fourth step for 2 years. For 2 years, I stayed in step 1, 2, and 3. I'm not saying this is good or bad. It doesn't matter. It's just what worked for me. It was my experience. I stayed with the format in my home group prime time, and I stayed in the foundation of steps 1, 2, and 3. Then Look at the moral inventory. First of all, half the people that I would have been mad at, that ripped me off and treated me bad, don't even wind up on my grudge list. Because I can already see, I'm the self-manufacturer of 98% of this. And then even though I'm the manufacturer of a lot of it, it doesn't seem to go away. So now the inventory process starts. What the book says, what really burned me up, like what's still making me so mad? And I start on that grudge list and I start looking at how it affects me, how it affects who I think I am and my personal relationships, and people shouldn't do this and they shouldn't treat each other and family should blah, 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 you know, and all these warped ideas. And on the back side of it, you know what? Where am I selfish? Where am I afraid? Where am I still sick and twisted? How could I be of better service? What can I do differently? You know, and when I start to see that, there's the new character. There's the new character that starts to really be born, that I've written it down on paper and I've really looked at it, and I tell it to a sponsor and to God. I say it to another human being, and I really mean, I want this stuff out of my life. My motives are pure. I want to be clean inside. That doesn't matter. That doesn't mean I'm rendered white as snow. I look at step 6 and it says that I'm entirely ready to have God remove these defects of character. I wish that a fairy godmother like Glenda floated down in a bubble with a frickin' wand and just went poof and I never cussed again or anything or hated. But it didn't go that way. I mean, being entirely ready and then having it done are two very, very different things. I have to pray these things out of my system over and over and over again. But I look at them in the inventory and I don't forget them, and I know what my defects are. And I look at step 7 and I humbly ask him to remove my shortcomings where I'm coming up short. Am I a giver? Am I patient? Am I a good listener? Am I still always interrupting people? Do I still hate? Do I still feel self-righteousness and justification? And I want God to please allow me to have the flip side of this. Help me be a lover. Help me be kind. Help me be a giver. You know, and I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but I can tell you that the steps as a way of life have changed my life. Our society puts a very big price tag on what we have on the outside and not very much on what we have on the inside, but I'm very invested in what's on the inside, and I'm not very invested at all on what's on the outside, you know. And I really want to give my home group some credit, because I don't take any credit. I can't take credit. I'm not about credit. It's a we thing and it's a God thing, and God gets all the credit. And the people that have been such a part of my life, you know, there's so many people in my home group that are like my best friends. They're, you know, my sponsor Valerie and John. And by the way, my daughter Mackenzie, she's here tonight. She's 25 years old. Yay. Yeah. And we've been through it all and come out the other end, and thank God she doesn't have this disease and she doesn't run around and, you know, drive herself crazy. And you know what? I don't know how she turned out so well. But it's amazing that I can even stand up here, and I really have no shame telling her or talking about this, because I've been through it all. I've inventory. I'm not a hooker. I don't live in the street. I have a great private practice. I have a beautiful job today. Not to brag, but I take home 6 figures. I paid for all of her college. Things are okay. God is good. God is beyond good. So, so good to me. You know, my best friend John Sarley, you know what, he does so much for my home group Primetime. He started this website and he does all these recordings and he puts all this stuff on there. It's all like for fun and for free. I mean, my relationship with him is so spiritually organized on so many levels. I don't know how God did that. I don't know how God brought somebody like that into my life and me into his, but I look at it and I just see, wow, divine order, you know. And even sponsees that really aren't even sponsees anymore, they turn into best friends, you know. My life is rich. My life is rich and it is full because of Alcoholics Anonymous, because of AA. AA gave back to me a life beyond my wildest dreams. But I suited up and I showed up and I rolled up my sleeves and I continue to go for this thing like crazy. I am not cured of alcoholism. I got a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of my spiritual condition, and I got to practice the principles in all my affairs. And if I got a bum affair that I can't practice the principles in, well, maybe I need to limit that affair fare. Maybe I need to back down. You know, I really hope that maybe you even stop by sometime at a primetime meeting. We've got some CDs over there. They're for fun and for free. We've got some business cards. There's a bunch of my homies over there. Yay, primetime. And thank you all, and thank you, Dawn. I mean, just thank you all so much for letting me come and share. Thank you. Thank you. Woo, AA! Woo! Go! Prime time! Aww. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Oh, God, what am I supposed to do? I don't know what to do. I'm all done. Thank you.
Sorry to interrupt your viewing. Taper Dave here. Just wanted to take a second to ask you to like and subscribe to my channel. Let me know if you like what you're listening. I've got some very good talks here, and this one's a great one. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Tell me what you think. Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst and one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right, but I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.